Yeah, I'm not fun either. Like the kids are kind of still on the small side, so I get a little antsy about them doing like my husband really wants to do the rafting, the whitewater rafting. And he's like,
Right.
"You could let our son go." And I'm like, "I don't know, man. I don't know."
I think it's like safe. It's not like a huge river, and it's going through the town. But they have all these like kid things there. It's like I think it'd be the best. It's so
Okay.
fun.
That
Yeah.
doesn't sound too
You're talking
scary.
about Unicoi State Park in Alabama.
Is that in the southern part or
Uh,
the mid?
you got me on that one. It's
Okay.
2 hours from Atlanta. That's all I know.
Okay, yeah, that would probably be like closer to the bottom center
Right.
dot area because
Right.
we're in North Alabama. We're right smack in the middle, right at the top edge. So I'm actually about 5 minutes south of Tennessee.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we're like
Like I said,
way.
it's like a cool little like old-fashioned campground, but it's a hotel, and it's nice.
Yeah, we really like to go camping and kayaking. That's what we do every weekend that we have a choice, have an option to.
All right.
Spring and the summer and the fall. So we just winter,
That's
we're stuck
cool.
at home.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I think it's a good family trip.
Yeah, we'll check that out. Thank you. And where are you at?
I'm in Connecticut.
Okay, cool. I've never been there. Which
Mm,
there's a whole lot of places I haven't been. I've been stuck in this like same little 5 mile radius bubble for most of my life. I haven't really ventured too terribly far out of it. I've
yeah.
hit the surrounding states and a few more, but so,
This is your year. Have you been in Nashville?
oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, we frequent that for concerts for sure.
Yeah.
'Cause
I have
it's
not been there. I would like to go there too.
oh, okay, you haven't been to Nashville? We're
No.
we're so close that our kids take field trips to Nashville.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's
Love
like
it.
an hour and a half drive.
Very, very cool.
So tell me how you got started with all of this.
Um, I like to say it's a work in progress my whole life.
Well, everybody's is for sure.
So, the writing, I have two books right now, and one about to come out in April, has been my way of really connecting to myself. I talk about Nourish, and we are actually speaking about a Nourish app that I've been creating for the last 2 years, which are activations, guided activations that help get into your body, mind, soul, and spirit on different events that have happened in your life where you made up stories and you kind of went down that path and your life has become, a series of, challenges from the stories you created from when you were a child. And so it takes a look. It's designed to explore and transform a lot of these events in your life so that you can um, break yourself free, as your podcast talks about, break yourself free from any of these outworn behaviors that no longer work for us anymore. Um, but so I think that these activations really help people kind of maneuver their way out from these behaviors. And it's not really just about food, even though it's called nourishment. Nourishment is kind of a metaphor for how we actually live our life and are doing our own life, how we feel safe in our bodies, how we feel safe in, our relationships with other people and and our biggest relationship is with ourselves.
Mhm.
So I've done it in a way to encompass. It was not going to be the whole diet mentality, which is how I lived most of my life, let me do a diet to, I've gotten to the point where if I start a diet, it'll only last for 12 hours. So, so the time shortens every time I decide to do one. So I don't even try that anymore. So the only way I figured out how to, just feel okay with myself and actually be in my body is to really nourish myself. And I was um doing that, nourishing myself in all areas of my life, and but I kept using not so wonderful words, no compassionate words or anything for myself when it came to the food,
Mm,
right?
mm,
And the food was just a way to, it was that metaphor, like how we do life is how I do food is how we do life, right?
mm. How you do anything is how you do everything.
Yes.
And
Yes.
nourishment, we get really hung up on words in as people. We feel like there's a particular word for every single thing, and that's the only word that you can use, and it only means that one thing. And it's not true. Words are very abstract, and we need to, as a humanity, need to learn how to look past them for the bigger picture, the underlying picture, read between the lines essentially, and stop being so concrete and stifled. Because, yes, I agree, nourishment is oftentimes associated with just food, but it's not just food. You are what you consume, whether it be, what you're scrolling and seeing on Facebook, what you're watching on television, the interactions with people that you're having, and your self-talk, your internal dialogue. All of that can be either nourishing or detrimental to your health.
Right.
The way I explain things to my children is like everything is either like speaking on food terms, because I think that speaking on food terms and using food as an analogy for all of the other aspects of life really helps people tune into and understand all of the other aspects of life, because we all eat every day. So that's something that we're very accustomed to. We're very familiar with it.
Right.
So I
I
always,
always say, I always say on that note is that we can't really quit food because it's something that we need to survive. So
Mhm,
we need to, I say I was doing food, right? Or I was doing it, or it was do food was doing me. So now it's I'm looking at food as every time I eat now the words to my head, because we're retraining our mind and our words, is now where I'm being nourished. So that takes a whole edge off of everything, that we're thinking when we're about to eat. So nourish is the word. Nourishment is the concept of my life is being nourished right now. So you take it across the board with everything you're doing. Oh, I'm having a nourishing relationship with this person,
mhm,
right? Oh, that was a nourishing event in my life.
mhm,
Like we're retraining the words that we're talking in our heads for
mhm,
ourselves. And I think that it really lightens up our life. It
mhm.
lightens up our life completely.
Yeah, and words have vibrations and energy, and the word nourishment is just, it's beautiful, it's
Mhm.
relaxing. You think about, like, I want everybody to sit there and think about the word for a second. It brings like a relaxed feeling to you,
Right,
a peaceful, like you feel your shoulders kind of like
right.
release and relax everything down. Um,
It's
the,
also it makes you feel happy and joyful
mm-hmm,
because it has that, as you were talking about the vibration of the word. Truly, you have that when you're doing things, you're not talking, non-compassionately to yourself anymore. So what you're really doing is feeding your soul on some level when you even use that word. So I think that it's like almost like a mantra,
yeah.
right? It's feeding your soul on so many levels and you feel joyful.
And that's what we're missing in our culture and
Yeah.
society, is that in-depth nourishment to our soul. Because
Mhm.
most of us have never had the only connection to spirituality or our soul, our spirit, has been religion. And other than that, like we didn't really know, because I didn't know. I grew up in a heavily Christian family and whatnot. We went to church all the time. And that didn't really quite feel right to me. Just from my own personal experiences of being there, I was just like, I don't know about all this. I don't know. I don't know. And but where else do you turn? There is no really other places to turn. And so thankful that it's becoming more commonplace now that people are
Right,
understanding that they have other options and that
right,
you can be spiritual and not religious. And then the
right,
two can be as intertwined or as
right.
separate as you want them to be.
Yes. I like there's a lot of beautiful stories in the Catholic tradition, and I feel like when you look at them and you look at the real meaning behind it, and you take it outside the context of just Christianity, it's real. That's another thing that's really nourishing for the soul. What's a better way to, I think that one of the fundamental things that the Catholic religion teaches you is how to pray.
Mm,
Right? Which is kind of like words that you hear in your head too, and connections that you make with spirit. And I feel like that's a really important part of our daily nourishment too, like to have
mhm,
that conversation with spirit and just to talk because it allows us to feel safe,
mhm.
right? That we're not out there and we're not alone in the world. It allows us to feel safe, safe in our body, safe in, there's somebody here, there's somebody, I don't know if you hold it like that, but there's somebody around me that's protecting me on some level, right? Um, so I think that's a very nourishing thing too, because I think one of the main concepts of nourishment is to allow ourselves to feel calm and safe in the body, in our body. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you're familiar. I built my entire platform on anxiety and stress management. So that's definitely something that a lot of people struggle with, probably more than not. Like even people, I grew up, my dad had no concept of anxiety or stress. I assume that you're familiar with the like astrological zodiacs a little bit. He's a Leo and
Uh-huh.
completely personifies that thoroughly. So growing up, he was like, "What do you mean you're anxious? What are you anxious about? What do you like? I don't understand." And now,
Making you feel more anxious.
honestly though, um, but now I can recognize in him that he gets anxious too. He just doesn't realize it. So even and because um it manifests in everybody in a different way. And his would manifest in like anger and agitation, right? And a lot of people don't understand that that's a anxiety response as well. So I think everybody has anxiety to an extent. We have different types, different variations, different levels of it, but we're all or, ignorance is bliss. There is some people walking around here, ignorance is bliss. They don't really, they're just like, la-di-da, it's fine. Life is good. And I envy those people for sure. But
I,
finding ways.
I also grew up in a family where I thought, and this is what really got me going too, because I thought that anger was a powerful emotion that is the only emotion you can have,
Mm,
because it's the one that was displayed in my family also. And
yeah.
every situation, like having dinner at the dinner table was so like hurried and abrupt, and we had to finish, and so it was like anxious to even have dinner or even eat, and the preparation and the ending, and it was had to be fast. Uh,
And it's
so
so harmful to the nervous system and to our overall health in response to.
right, but we don't know if that's the only thing
Yeah.
you see, and then it's the only thing I saw in other people's families, relatives. And then I would go to other homes of people where they would have actually smaller portions, and there would have beautiful conversations at the table. And I was like, oh, this is so weird. It feels so weird here, right? This dichotomy of how food is at the table. But I just wanted to say that in my app also, I have an activation that's called setting the table, and it describes your how you were at the table because it's probably repeated itself in our lives, right? We didn't just have that experience then, and probably we have that experience all the time. And in the in this activation is a way to look at it and explore it. And there's a way to transform the behavior by bringing in your inner child
Mhm.
and your inner guardian that's now here to soothe us. So it's a very powerful activation. And I have 12 of them in my app that talk about a lot of these situations in our life. So, and it's transformative. Even if somebody listens to it, once a week or twice a week, it starts to shift in your life without you don't have to be consciously like aware of it, but you'll notice that some of these behaviors will shift.
So it's like a guided meditation or a guided introspection. Oh no, we froze. Okay, so we crashed. Yeah, I'm sorry. I had to wait until Zoom saved our previous video before I could bring it back up so that I could stitch them together later. So,
That's good.
yeah. So, coming back to your app, these are these guided meditations or guided introspections or
They're guided, I call them activations,
yeah.
but guided they're like a guided meditation, but it's uh yeah, it goes from it goes from it's kind of like having you explore these scenarios, but it is a guided meditation. And the series is called the Nourishment series. And I have 12 really empowering processes with 4 unique bundles in the app. And
Okay.
they're everyone is a focused theme. And each process has an activation, but it also has like I created these daily reading components so you can go over the theme and it kind of grounds it into you a little bit more. And I call that an essential elixir. And I have affirmations also that you could just listen to also just to reinforce the activation. But the 3 of them together, and I also send out prompts, also like nourishing prompts as a reminder. Every day you get one. And it's reminding you to kind of nourish yourself from the inside out. And so the all of it together kind of helps shift whatever the behavior is that you chose, because we don't do a start here. But if you start to read what the apps are and what the activations are, you get a sense of what's really up for you.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
you can hear instinctively what would be nourishing for yourself. And then you can just, pick one and then do that, in a 10-day period, maybe do it a couple of times. And you start to notice like the behavior is just changing. Instead of, how when we want to change a habit, we kind of go from the outside in, like, I'm going to do this, or this is my new thing. But this kind of just shifts it gently, and it really works. You're not smacking yourself over the head, actually.
yeah.
But some of the um, activations I have one. Do you mind if I go over a couple of them just to discuss it?
I mean, I guess you can, but I mean, they get access to it afterwards, right? So they can look at it themselves and
Right, but I was
because
going to
we're
just, okay. I was going to describe how just a couple of them just to see where how what the themes were. Um,
Because it's re-parenting yourself essentially and going back to when you were a kid and looking at why you fell into the subconscious programming patterns that you did and how to rework those because you're right when we try to change our habits we oftentimes look outside of us first we go to our kitchen and we throw out everything that doesn't align with our current diet and choices and desires and then we go to the grocery store and completely try to overhaul everything externally and it's overwhelming and it's hard to keep up with.
mhm.
And, you know, life, well, we might do good for a couple of days. We got that momentum going. We're really motivated, but then things are getting hard and harder. But what is a better use of our time is to do the internal work first
Right,
without ever even changing anything externally. The more you work on that internal world and the why you make those decisions
right.
and where those came from,
Mhm.
and really trying to get back to the root of them, then you can start to rebuild and reformulate and choose because we didn't really choose our patterns. We fell into our patterns based
Exactly. I
our
agree with you.
situations and circumstances that we experienced as a child,
Mhm.
oftentimes picking up the same patterns that our parents had. And a lot of us can be really resentful towards that, really resentful towards our parents
But
when,
I was gonna, can I just say, I want to say one thing about that. Now that I'm looking back, it's really to understand our triggers and kind of our trigger response in a lot of cases. And the thing is, a lot of us don't have that little pause beforehand, that conscious moment. But if we look at everything that happened as a gift, because
Mhm.
it kind of takes a lot of pressure, that anxiety or that anger out of us. If we look at um, the past as, like we said before, that it was something that happened for us, and it created our purpose and our soul. It created part of our personality, which is very functional. So on some level, it developed us, and so it's truly a gift. um, a lot of that happened because now look at what you're doing. You're on a podcast that's really discussing that, all of these behaviors and emotional um, boundaries and, how do you manifest this good life? And you are helping so many women.
Mm.
You're
That's really,
presenting women, you're helping so many people. So how we have to look our past is almost like our greatest gift.
yeah, for sure. For sure. If my life and childhood and everything had not been like it was, I would have never looked for ways to make it better in the first place. Because you have to have that discomfort to motivate you to find something better and figure out what you want. Um,
Right.
and a lot of people, they're in the transition of that. So the acceptance and forgiveness comes usually a little bit later than in the beginning. And a
Mhm.
lot of people are starting in the beginning. So um,
Yeah.
it's easy for us to be like, it was the trauma and the abuse and all of that, the terrible things that they did to us was a gift from the outside. But a lot of people are living it and living the repercussions of it still. And they're grasping at this and that in hopes that maybe this will be the thing that'll help them. Maybe that'll be the thing that'll help them. And it's a long journey and it takes time. It takes us however old we are right now. That's how many years we've been working in this direction.
Right.
So it takes a little bit of a transition to
Right.
flip it over in the other side, to go
Yeah.
the other way. And what a lot of people don't understand is that you have to make a mess to clean a mess. So it's going to seem very messy at first, and
Right.
because we want to appear like we have it figured out and like what we
Yeah.
have all of the answers and oh, I'm not lost and confused. I know exactly what I'm doing
Right.
in life, and it's not true. None of us, all of us are free falling and just doing the best with what we have today. And but we always want to look at the external factors to propel change. And the
Right.
external factors, well, the only constant in life is change, and
Mhm.
life is always going to throw wrenches at you. We still got to chop wood and carry water. We still got to go to work and pay the bills. We still got to, uh, most of us,
But it's how we do it when we start to become conscious. It's how we do that.
right,
Like
which is why it's
doing
called
that with
self-esteem.
appreciation and gratefulness, or are we doing it with, we're kicking stones along the way saying, "Oh my God, can't believe I'm doing this." But I was thinking too, I have a theory on that. I think that there's a whole level of people that are conscious and doing the work that you're doing and that I'm doing, and working with people so that us going through whatever we're going through and coming out on the other side or getting conscious allows for the next generation or the next group of people to not, maybe it's not going to take as long.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we're aware and we can teach and we can help, or we can, sponsor them to understand it quicker, or maybe it doesn't have to take as long. Maybe that's kind of a concept that we have in our heads also, that because we've been struggling so long, that maybe it's just the next generation, I think, is not going to be as long and as drooling, and because like even a process like this, maybe it's just a timely my app is maybe just a timely tool that somebody can use also, that might work through things in a timely basis also, that's not going to take as long because it's very precise and very concrete situations that everybody has, like the sabotaging self, the I'm not enough, maybe people can just shift through it by doing something like this. And, you doing your podcast and introducing different concepts too. And
Mm-hmm.
people are like, oh, yeah, I get it. And then I feel like also the more people become conscious the more you become conscious, the more people around you are becoming conscious, and you're more open to that shifting of behaviors because it just doesn't work anymore and the time's up.
Sure. Yeah, there's lots of
Yeah.
shit going on. I'm so thankful for the internet for it bringing everyone together and these ideas and
Right.
connecting everyone because, you know, previous generations that grew up without the internet, which I mean, technically, I grew up without the internet, technically. Um, it didn't enter my life until I was a teenager. But before that, you had to, for one, be aware that there was a problem.
Hmm.
And a lot of people can't even get to that point. That's just step one. And then for two, you got to know what the problem is. Like you got to have a name for it so that you can go looking for solutions to that particular problem. If you're just like, I know there's a problem, but I don't know what it is, I don't know what to call it, you're going to have a hard time at the library looking up books on that.
Right. Right.
And which is, historically what people had to do. So they had to have the time and the opportunity, which means they had to have enough stability and security to walk away from their job and their work and all of their kids, whatever, to be able to go to the library and then hope that their local library had a book on it and then hope that that book was accurate because let me tell you what, a whole lot of them are not. And that's and there's various reasons for that. There's just the book was accurate at the time before we had the further research that actually came around and proved it wrong. And then there's the stuff that's like they'll pretty much just let you post a book or publish a book about whatever. As long as you can convince the publishers that it's legit and it sounds good to them and they think that they can market it and sell it and make some money on it, they're like, okay, sure.
But now
And
they're making it really easy to self-publish too.
oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely, it is. Which is almost the better route these days because the marketing, the publisher company, um, they want all of the money, but they also want you to do all of the marketing. So if you have to do all of the marketing anyway, why are we paying them? So it's for the clout, honestly. That's it.
Exactly.
It's
I actually self-published my two books, and I'm probably self-publishing again right now.
good. That's what we all should be doing these days. I think that self-publishing is absolutely the future. Absolutely. And it's things like podcasts that, your own self-marketing, you put yourself out there and you're like, what's up, guys? This is who I am. This is what I do. Do I have all the answers? Absolutely not. Nobody does. But here's what helped me, and you know what? Because we're all just throwing noodles at the wall and seeing what sticks. But I have a whole arsenal of different types of noodles that I bet you didn't know existed. And we can help. I can just, here's some noodles, throw them at the wall, or don't. I don't know. That's your business. If you don't, because a lot of people are just into the reading and the learning and the listening, but not actually the doing, which.
That's hard. That takes a lot of courage to take that step. Because once you open up the doors, you're in it. And I always say that this is a path. It's not a one and done. It's not a pill. It's a path that we're on. And if you and that was another thing that I noticed. When when you start to say the word path and it's you're on a path, then you can't fault yourself for wherever you are on that path. We don't need to beat ourselves up and say, "Oh my God, why didn't I get that yet? This is like the 20th time I got this lesson or the 100th time I got this lesson. I still didn't get it right." But
Mhm.
if the words coming through your head are like, "Okay, we're on a path here." It is better. You allow yourself to see what increments of healing that you've come toward too.
Mhm.
So, I appreciate that word as part of my how I speak to myself now. Also, I'm offering that up for anybody that wants to take pressure off themselves.
Yeah,
That just we're on a journey, we're on a path. It's kind of liberating,
it is. It's
very
very,
liberating.
and it is scary because you can't go back once you get on it. Like you can't
Right.
unlearn the things that you learn, and you can't unsee, and you can't unknow once you know. And that
If
can
somebody
be,
found you and found this, they're already on a path.
oh, sure, sure. Well, we're all
They're
on our,
not new coming and they're finding you. They're really already on a path right now. And you're there to enhance their path.
sure. And once you open those floodgates, yeah,
Mhm.
because most of us are, we weren't taught emotional regulation and how to process events and feelings and things. So most of us have just, in an effort to heal it, have instead suppressed it. And once you start getting still, and because I teach yin and restorative yoga and meditation. So it's not very active yoga because we're heavily focused on the meditation aspect because that's more valuable. There's 1,000 different ways that you can exercise your body, stretch, all of that, but there's not a ton of people out there like meditation classes. You kind of have to look a little bit harder for those, especially in some areas. And
Mhm.
so that's what I focus on. And a lot of
Do
people
it online.
I do a little online. I don't like it as much though because the energy's not there. It's just me talking to my computer. So it's just me talking to me and the energy's not there. Well, I need people. I need to interact. I need to gauge what you have going on and feel you out and see like, oh, is this like I'll suggest something and then I can like gauge whether that's too much for you or if
Mhm.
that's not enough or if we're right where we need to be and then I can adjust from there to go this way or that. I
Right.
don't like coming into it and being like, today we're going to work on your inner child and then
Mhm.
have something planned out. It just feels too scripted and I'm just That's not how I operate. I fly by the seat of my pants 100% of the time and trust my intuition and the universe to guide me. And so far, it's working out pretty good. But but a lot of people are super uncomfortable in my classes because like they would rather go do 50 push-ups and 3-minute planks than sit quietly with their thoughts and feelings
Right.
because
Interesting.
your emotions from that traumatic event are trapped in your body somewhere, waiting for their opportunity to be processed. And if you give them the slightest bit, that's why people don't like to talk about what happened to them, or they want to talk about it all the time. You know, it just kind of depends on the person. But once you open those floodgates, it just becomes very overwhelming very quickly. But, and it, you know, sometimes it can feel like you literally have been stabbed in the heart and are bleeding out, and oh, I might die now. This feels like death.
Right.
And it can be really scary. You know, humans have big emotions and they're bigger than our body
Right.
because we're actually bigger than our body.
Right.
We just don't realize it.
And we
And
think we are those emotions. We think we
yeah.
actually are them. We don't have a separation. Like we don't even have a boundary with our emotions and what we really are. And we become consumed by that emotion. We're like, oh, I'm just emotional and whatever we say about ourselves. And we are kind of almost stuck in that little pattern
hmm
as we identify ourselves as that pattern.
Yeah, we place our identity on the stories that we tell ourselves about ourselves.
Yeah.
And
Wouldn't
a
it be
lot of that's
nice to
external.
see the stories transforming right before our eyes?
Always.
One of the main things that I offer in my app. So I'm really proud of that because I too was stuck in my emotions. And not to say that I totally have it. I don't. I'm in a process, like you were describing before. And but the difference is I'm in a safe environment and I feel totally supported and I could see the shifts.
Yes. You have
See
to
the
remind yourself constantly, especially in the beginning. You have to, that's where affirmations come in. You know, you have to do the groundwork of figuring out where this pattern came from. Then you have to choose a better pattern, and then you have to reaffirm it, reaffirm it, reaffirm it constantly until it actually starts to take shape and take hold, and then it becomes second nature. And then, like, of course I'm confident. What do you mean? I've always been confident because you literally, like, once you get to a certain point, you forget that you used to not be.
Right. I feel that by
For
doing these
example.
processes, these activations that I have, it begins to transform without that struggle because we begin to look at it differently. We look at it from a bunch of different angles and it kind of transforms itself because we're seeing it different. So I think that's the power behind the app and the activations I have. But there's some activations I have that sabotage, self-sabotage. I look at what's in your inner fridge, like really looking at the triggers. So our relationships, some of the things that I explore are the relationships with other people. Like where did we decide how we were going to act with other people? So I think that looking at the setting the table, the one I was talking about, and I have another one called Safe and Sound, like really feeling safe in your body. And that's kind of medicine, like a whole nourishing medicine for yourself to feel safe and sound as you explore a lot of these themes. So I think that a lot of these things can take some of the pressure off or let's just go on this path and let's just look at it and do it. And I have another one called Healing Family Dynamics that are that's a very powerful one. And people have had great results from this. They right away look at a situation and right away transform how they looked at that situation and feel healed by it. So I think that this is especially if you can't it's so costly to work with somebody sometimes.
Sure.
It's costly to have therapy. It's costly. This is uh I think it's better than therapy because it's really focused and it gives you a solution.
Yeah, a lot of people find meditation a whole lot more helpful than just general therapy. Because, you can only take somebody as deep as you've been yourself. So if you're dealing with, for example, trauma and abuse or eating disorders, then your general therapist, unless they've experienced those things and went through the processes of healing their own um, repercussions from that and their own mental state from that, then they don't really know how to help you.
Exactly. I like to call them just patterns, eating patterns. So that it kind of takes the weight off of it, because we are in the middle of a lot of different patterns in our life.
Yeah, everything's a pattern.
Yeah. So I like to, like you're taking it apart, right? You're actually taking it apart and then you're developing other ways to behave that just probably come naturally and feel better.
Yeah, you just gotta shed all the layers of gunk on top
Right.
first.
Yeah.
Once you get on underneath, it all is like very simple. But
Hmm.
it takes a long time to get to the simplicity of it because, we're multidimensional creatures and everything seems incredibly complex until you can pick apart the patterns and start recognizing them here and there and everywhere around you.
Right.
All
Right.
right, well, this has been great. I
Thank you
will
so
make
much.
sure
I
everybody
love
gets the
chatting with
link.
you.
Anything else you want to say before we go?
Oh, I just want to say that, we're on that path. We're on a journey, and there's like a light right here at the end of the tunnel. Just get on that path. And we're already on it, actually. And that how we are able to shift our relationships in our life. We're able to shift all things in our life. And I think the most important thing is to focus on joy and live our life joyfully, no matter what we do.
Absolutely. Do what makes you happy.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.